and it's now 5 titles, 5 trophies for Mikel Arteta.
I think now we'll start to see Ødegaard play the way we know he can play, and we've always known he was capable of playing.
To question Bukayo is to question your intelligence in football. I'll go that strong.
Yes, guys, and welcome back to TDK Plus. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you are all good. We are back with another squad episode. No Alex with us today, but we have a staple in somebody who has been on consistently over the past couple of weeks, and you all have loved him, and he's here with us again today. James, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Every episode, someone must click on it. Someone who doesn't like me must click on it and think, "Oh, not again." But here I am. I keep turning up, and I love to talk about the Arsenal, and I am honoured to share the room with 2 very esteemed gentlemen.
Oh, very nice, and they all love you. So no, there's none of those comments, and even if there's those sorts of comments, we all get them. Trust me, we all get them. George, how are you?
I'm not as good as your skin, buddy. Looking smooth. That skincare routine, like I don't know if classic TDK fashion. Do you have a skincare routine? I actually just got into this where apparently
I do have a skincare routine.
You do? I don't.
Routine. Yeah.
Is that just a very middle school thing of me where it's just shower and the odd moisturizer that pseudos as like a sunscreen? I literally have the Aveeno sunscreen that's a moisturizer, and I don't even put it on every day.
Yeah, I mean, the bare minimum is you got to wash yourself. So make sure you at least wash yourself. That's for starters. And once you've done that, and you just like, I think at a bare minimum, rinsing your face with water, is good. But I go one step further. I have a cleanser. I can't remember what the name is for it. But then after the cleanser, so that's on a wet face, I then top it up with salicylic acid, I believe it is, which is very good.
Salicylic acid.
Yeah, which is good for removing like any sort of like dead pores and whatnot. And then after that, you top up with an SPF. So, However, mate, my skin
every day.
Every day, yeah. But my skin is not this good. Trust me. If it's coming through the camera like pristine, it's the camera. It's
Rohan, you're becoming more and more middle class every day. We're losing you.
Speaking of middle class, actually no, I'm not going to say that. No, that's not going to make any sense. But before we get into all of the chat, new season 26-27, and you know what that means? FPL time. Get your teams ready. It's FPL season, and I have created a TDK Plus League. Go on, James. Go on.
I was going to say, there is an Arsenal player who represents outstanding value on FPL. Christos Tzolis, 6.5 million midfielder. This guy, just while we're here, I think the number might be 22 now. He has got a goal and an assist in his last 22 domestic games where he's played more than 30 minutes. That is absurd.
And he's only 24 years old. And get on that boat. Get on the Christos Tzolis vibe. Put him in your teams. But yeah, if you did want to join the TDK Plus League, you can do so by accessing the link within the description of this video below. We'll be making sure that this link is on all videos that we have in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, do get involved. James is actually a pro at FPL. I've been doing FPL with James for quite a few years actually now. I'm pretty rubbish, to be honest, not gonna lie. I kind of go with the vibe.
What do they win, Rohan? What do they win?
Pride.
You could have made something up.
Bragging rights. Mate, do you know there was a league that I'm aware of at work, and it's quite ruthless. It's like one of their friends leagues, and there's like 12 of them. And the guy who finishes last has to sit in McDonald's for 12 hours. And yeah, you can chalk off an hour the number of burgers that you eat. So if you eat 2 burgers, you can get rid of 2 hours. But you have to stay in McDonald's for 12 hours.
Honestly, as forfeits go, I don't even think that's that bad. I'd have 6 burgers and stay there for 6 hours, and it'd just be a cheat day.
12 hours, actually.
I think it's longer than 12 hours.
But yeah, get involved. Get involved in the FPL league. But yeah, you've talked about Tzolis, James, and he has been a star. He was awarded man of the match yesterday by the club in our thumping victory against Manchester City for the English Super Cup. And it's now 5 titles, 5 trophies for Mikel Arteta in 6.5 years, just over 6.5 years. And this is where I wanted to start, boys. It is a trophy. And I really stand by this because you have to earn the right to compete in that trophy. If you have to earn the right to compete in a trophy, surely it has to have some form of value. Only in England, something like the Community Shield is not respected. Any other league, it is. In the French league, in Bundesliga, in Spain. It's a trophy, isn't it, boys? Or am I waffling?
Well, Rohan, this is exactly what George and I said before in the preview. We said this was the most important game of Arteta's career and that we both value the outcome of this game massively, weren't we, George?
I think it is a trophy, though. Surely. I appreciate the fact that, you don't get overly frustrated if you don't win it. But I still would say it's a trophy. That's why I'm serious about it. That's why I'm serious about the 5 years. 5 trophies.
You wouldn't put it in trophy conversations, would you?
Depends on how I feel on the day.
If you're on the international break, you're putting them in. If you're not and you're talking normal pod, you don't. It's one of those. No, I'm somebody that I do think just a sample. I think the minimum sample of a tournament is 7 or 8 games. So I think it is a trophy, but it's one of those that it's like a participation ribbon. But it's slightly better for me because I do agree with you that look, you got to be champions in order to participate. There's only so many times that you do get these types of games. And what I will say is that any time that you have an opportunity to basically, perform against title rivals, we draw these big metrics anyways. Say we're in the season and we're talking about a game at the Etihad. You telling me you're not having title conversations about 6-pointers and all those things? Of course you are, and so it is absolutely significant. And they're narrative builders. I don't think they're crucial to a legacy or anything like that in terms of history of the club. Personally, that's just my opinion. However, I do think they're incredible markers. They're narrative spinners, and they define how your season is going to be talked about. If you lose the Community Shield in a poor way, which, by the way, City did, it was an incredible game. I'm so excited to talk about it. I didn't get a chance to pop on the IR, but there's so many things that I saw in this game. I think we saved, guys, our best performance of preseason by a mile, our best in possession performance that I've seen in years, personally. I'd even go that far. There was a lot of really brilliant things that, for me, I saw was on show. A lot of interesting tactical tweaks that I just saw Mikel reestablish his authority as the benchmark in the league after Pep, as far as a coaching level goes. I'd go that far. There's some big things to talk about, and I think you can't do those things if it's not important, if it's a throwaway game. So that's my link. It is absolutely important. It's a narrative builder, and I think there are stakes on the ground as far as defining who you are and what you want to be this season. I think all of those things apply. I don't know if I'd actually go to legacy. If you really want me to be honest about it, as far as if I'm not feeling cheeky and I'm not actually trying to compare, I struggle that one game represents a legacy of any type of season. I think you have to at least had a minimum of 2 to 3 months of competing in something with at least 7 to 8 games in that run to even start to talk about any form of legacy. But that is my serious topic on it.
I've got it as a backup ammo. Just in case you need it.
Just something George mentioned as well about the Pep moving on and Arteta now kind of coming into that space. It's with any sport. I think it's going to be so interesting that Pep has essentially forced Arteta to become who he is now, and now stepped away from things. It's like 200-meter sprinters pushing each other's times, both getting 9.7 seconds. Yeah. And one of them, and you finally beat that guy to get 9.69, and then the other guy retires, and you look at the rest of the pack and you go, wow, we're so far ahead because Pep is the reason, and potentially without Pep, would Arsenal have got to this level? Who knows? But because of this, we've maximised so many of the margins, and we've built the team that we have now, that you're looking at teams that are supposed to be our closest challengers, and maybe things will change, but City look miles behind us. And Maresca tried to copy and paste Pep's tactics from the cup final with that front four. And we had Raya in goal. as a clear difference, but also just tactically, the progression was night and day. So I think there are very few managers, and I will say in world football, that can hang with Arteta when it comes to tactical ideas. Pep was certainly one of them, and he's gone. And I don't know anyone else in the league who can go stride for stride with him on that.
I'm really happy that you actually lean on that point about, like a copy and paste of last season, what Manchester City did, both in the Carabao Cup final, but also in the Etihad game. And actually, in the Etihad game, I felt like some of the things that we saw yesterday we utilised at the Etihad as well. But unfortunately, nobody really cared because we'd lost the game, and it came at a time in which, it felt like that was the end point for our title aspirations. And then you see what Enzo's doing. And I think there was some slight differences, but ultimately, as you've just alluded to, a front four, two in midfield, and a back four. How do you kind of navigate through that block? And I thought that we were able to play through it quite easily. And yeah, we'll have the Manchester City discussion chat in a bit as well. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about how I see kind of similarities to last year's preseason and this year's preseason as well, in which, for me, the games against Dortmund, Girona, Betis, Como, and now Man City. What I've really liked about preseason is that all of these teams have been different. And so we've not faced stylistically similar types of teams every single time. On top of the fact that each of those teams were well ahead in their preseason as well. So that naturally forces you to sharpen up quicker. And I felt like we've incrementally sharpened up as each game has passed by, on top of our World Cup guys coming back and having minutes in the tank. And you can then see what they're capable of doing yesterday for you listeners 2 days ago. But yeah, I do see the parallels to how there was serious worries regarding our defeats to Spurs last season and Villarreal. And then what did we do in the final preseason game last year? We slapped up Bilbao 3-0 at the Emirates. And then we slapped up City 3-0 yesterday as well, in which you can just see the team, they're ready now. But yeah, George, I'll come to you. You kind of alluded to how it's the best in possession performance that you've seen in years. That certainly bodes well, right? In terms of putting us in a good shape going ahead into the season now, in which, like I said, I think people were worried about the type of form that we're going into that City game and then to Coventry as well. So, yeah.
I have a lot to talk about on that. And I don't know, by the way, if you guys agree or not. Like, to me, it was one of the most balanced attacks that I've seen us produce in a long time, as far as the proportion of time we spent at both the left and the right. I didn't feel that there was a bias towards anything. It was some of the most fluid that I've seen our specific midfield do in terms of progressing through central blocking. One of the biggest things that I felt like Arsenal, as we've evolved basically from 23-24 or even 22-23, once we became good, the central blocking and pinning people in the center spaces has been something Arsenal have struggled with, whether that's a low block that then escalated to a physical mid block, that then escalated to last year, this kind of 4-2-4 thing that teams were trying to do, that they actually pushed a little bit high, but then crowded the center. And Arsenal, at different points in the last 2 to 3 years, have, in my opinion, struggled to basically play through the center. It's a fancy way of saying at different points, teams offered us different challenges, but it went from basically, okay, let's just camp in our third and demand for their creativity to expand. And then we had that U-shaped problem, which I think we've kind of solved as of almost a year and a half ago. And then it evolved into this physical mid-block. Okay, let's put athletes in the center against Arsenal to make sure to stop their kind of wide creation. They've kind of expunged this low block thing. And then teams responded by putting basically athletes and runners on the inside. And that's kind of how midfield's evolved. And then last year, it kind of culminated in this last thing where people just packed the middle of the park. And it extended, in my opinion, to City. I thought Chelsea did this to us as well. There were some major teams that kind of adopted this 4-2-4 and thought that could be Arsenal's kryptonite towards the back half of last season. And I think it was a really important tactical thing for us to overcome. And like, we did it brilliantly. Yeah. And I think it goes beyond the profile thing, although they really help. Having the type of pivot that we had, the personality of both Miles Lewis-Skelly and Bruno Guimaraes together as a pivot, they both represent people on the ball, forgetting their quality for a second as far as their passing, volume, and all these things that we talk about technically. The personality they have, the bravery they have to punch early, quick, direct. That's two players I think Miles is probably, as far as deep progression, potentially our most direct deep passer of the football. Bruno adds that, and it was something that we really lacked in the squad, and it was vital to us getting up the pitch in a way that was quick, streamlined, and I called it on Twitter Liverpool-esque. Like the type of our possession, it was crisp, it was quick, it was penetrative, and it was direct, but also in control. We had quite a bit of the ball, and it was just this fluid blend that I just haven't seen in years. And I want to end this little monologue on basically Martin Ødegaard, who for me was actually man of the match. It wasn't Tzolis. I thought that Martin Ødegaard as a whole had the biggest impact on that team. He's had a great preseason. I've been mentioning it, and kind of some of our IRs, James, as well. And I think it goes beyond where I'm starting to see a better physical level from Martin Ødegaard than I've seen all of last season. That was number one, contributes to it. But also, I wonder what the impact, guys, and I'm going to throw this idea out there, of having that type of pivot, the personality of that pivot in deep build-up and the impact that has on players, not just for Martin Ødegaard, but look at Mascara, who I thought had a great game, by the way, and was incredibly good with his passing, direct and complete and penetrative. But what is the impact on having people surrounding you that are brave, willing to receive between the lines? Like, look at David Raya. We know what he's like. That ping with his left foot, frightening in terms of an individual highlight reel. But when you start to add more players in central areas that are brave to that degree and have that type of personality, everybody around you just starts to chest up a bit. And I do think the personality of that pivot, as much as we want to compliment and talk about football skills and complementary partnerships in that sense, I really think pairing mental profiles in specific areas of the pitch is something that we don't explore often enough. And that was the biggest reason that I attributed basically the performance to. And having that as your pivot, it wasn't just one or the other. It was having both of them together at the same time. And it literally, we saw it in the first 30 seconds with that goal in terms of how Miles is receiving and the type of pass. Guys, Miles has done that pass so many times. But to have the arrogance and the audacity to do that in the pockets in the first 30 seconds of the Community Shield is crazy. But then look at the work Bruno G does to even start that move on the right. And then you see it kind of, that sideways passing, that directness, I haven't seen from our pivot basically since Granit Xhaka, who I think was, vital to that progression from deep build-up. So that's kind of the big point that I saw. And it was just a collective benefit. And, I'm sure we'll get into the redundancy points and stuff later as far as skills go. But like that, to me, was the biggest wow moment of that performance.
Just to jump onto that quickly, is this idea of having, two different progression routes solve so much. When you get a single point of failure, as a defensive team, it's so much easier to solve it. Look, if you can turn two taps on at the same time, the bath's going to fill up quicker.
Absolutely.
So, but between them, as you say, it's a case of personality, but also trust. I think Ødegaard, we speak about Ødegaard and this like desire to drop into deeper spaces. Part of this is because he knows that if he does find himself between the lines, he's not necessarily going to get found anyway. Whereas now, so much more of the time, I saw him picking up that space when Bruno had the ball, because he said, you know what, as soon as Bruno receives the ball, he's going to turn and look forward between the lines. Yeah. And if I'm not there, then it's my issue. So Ødegaard, I really noticed, look, don't get me wrong, during times in the game, he did drop deeper. But then also, that relationship with Bruno meant Bruno could step forward and be more threatening in those same spaces. But so for me, it's this idea that Ødegaard now trusts that there's a central progressor from deep, which means he doesn't necessarily have to be that guy, and that he can find himself higher up and then also cause the problems we know he's so good at causing. And when you pair that with the physical level that looks to have improved, and to me, also psychologically, it looks like there's a massive, massive weight off his shoulders. I think last season he was probably, as captain, I think he felt it, but also his position was at threat. So if he comes into this season with the wind between his sails, I think now we'll start to see Ødegaard play the way we know he can play, and we've always known he was capable of playing.
Yeah. I also think with Ødegaard last season, I did personally feel the criticism was slightly over the top when we consider what actually happened through the entire year. I mean, he had 3 injuries that all happened in game, and he had to be taken off before half time. They were against Forest, against Leeds, and West Ham. And in each of those games.
I said you're just showing off.
in each of those games as well, I thought he was building. And then when we look back at some of the key moments from last season, and don't get me wrong, the conversation on Ødegaard occurs because there have been poor performances from Ødegaard, and I think that's rightfully highlighted. But equally, when you look back at our victory at the Vitality Stadium last season, the 3-2, Ødegaard has massive contributions in that. Against Brighton, the long ranger outside the edge of the box, it's a massive contribution. Against Aston Villa at home, in the 4-1 win with him and Martin Zubimendi and how they connected. And obviously the big ones against West Ham and Newcastle. And if we don't, if Ødegaard is not on the pitch in those two games, I remember at the time, and I still look back at that Newcastle game being one of our best performances against Newcastle at St. James's Park under Mikel. But I don't think we win that game if Ødegaard's not on the pitch. And I think the connection that he has with Bruno as well, I like the fact that with both Ødegaard and Bruno, I don't know about you two, but for me, if we have a scenario in which we can pin a team in, so then it creates a low blocking counter. So then it becomes a game of, can you unlock the door? I've always felt that I've needed an Ødegaard in the team in that environment to allow us to kind of probe, move it, and work the solution. But now you've got someone like Bruno as well. I feel like we don't burden Ødegaard with that much responsibility as well if he's not there, because Bruno is just as good in that environment as well. And I think hearing Bruno talk about Ødegaard after the game in the World Cup between Brazil and Norway, you feel that they're just going to connect. And I felt already there were some promising signs there. But I want to kind of bring this question to you two, where, we're talking about a fantastic performance on the ball, tweaks and whatnot. But the way I see it is, the players that you have on the pitch, you see someone like Miles Lewis-Skelly, Bruno, the players you have on the pitch will dictate the way that you will play as well. Like someone like Miles Lewis-Skelly, you see naturally the way that he shifts, he turns direction, he absolutely does Foden there, and then he plays the slide rule pass. That's because Miles Lewis-Skelly is who he is as well. Whereas somebody else like Martin Zubimendi, he's not going to do that, but he can contribute in a different way. So for me, a lot of it is down to the personality on the pitch, and I know we kind of wanted to talk about the fullbacks as well, Calafiori in particular. So I'll come to you, James. Do you see it as something that's effectively, if you have players of quality like Miles, like Bruno, and you have good balance across the pitch, I think that's going to pay dividends ultimately.
George and I spoke about this in some depth when the Real Madrid Brazilian left winger was linked with Arsenal. Because I'm not sure. Anymore. I think he cleans bathrooms now. We were speaking about this. Arteta has finally got his squad, and to an extent where there are so many relationships across the pitch where you look and you say each of these are so complementary and bring out the best in each other. And we spoke about Saka and the potential of having an explosive left winger. And I still think Barcola would represent that if we're interested. Bruno Guimaraes and Rice, Gabriel and Saliba, of course, but also at fullback, we really spoke about. And in particular, our example was Timber and Calafiori, but with the way White can still play. And what I enjoy, and I guess typically you'd consider Timber as like the inside player and Calafiori just simply whatever he wants. He's the roamer. But with White, the fact that White is able to stretch the pitch on the right and Tzolis stretches the pitch on the left leaves a really, really nice open channel for Calafiori, in which, in particular, obviously he got his own goal, but something maybe lesser seen was the run he made for Ødegaard's goal. He makes a late run into the box, which drags the man who's covering the passing lane, it drags him about 1 or 2 meters back, which creates the space for Ødegaard, and we score. And they're the soft factors that you don't necessarily see when you're watching on first occasion. I've watched that goal 10 times now. But that's why Calafiori is so vital to the way we play. Because if you put Hincapié in that position, that goal probably doesn't happen. So I'll let George take it on a deeper tactical journey. But yeah, Calafiori in particular, I think is one of the keys to us to our success this season. And I thought Ben White was much better than he has been in pre-season, where I'd been slightly worried about him at times.
Interesting. George, take us on this tactical journey of the fullback.
I was gonna say, I feel like, James, we have this pod telepathy. I don't know if you saw my tweet before the podcast, but it was exactly describing that. With everybody literally
cooperative superiority between you two. Is that what it is? I see.
Exactly, it's that tag team. So there. Listen, I think that I'll try to keep this as basic as possible. For me, the big tactical meta right now is packing the center. For teams that don't have the quality to compete with quality. So if you're talking about basically a Forest, a Palace, etc., really good teams, okay, that are going to give the top teams the best trouble, it's do they have the athletes to compete in duels and win their duel centrally, but also pack the center to force play out wide? And how effective are you going to be in creating wide situations to open up centrally? And one of those are, you've got the overlapping fullback traditionally, and I think it's just the evolution where Pep last year, he actually was a lot more traditional in his kind of application of the 4-2-3-1, if you will, with using the fullbacks as the width holders. And the biggest question I had is Maresca used the complete opposite. He uses touchline winger. So I wonder how that's going to affect their squad. Yeah. But from an Arsenal sense, why are fullbacks so important? Why are these deep runs absolutely vital? And why I think they're going to become even more vital since we have found, quote unquote, the Miles, the Bruno, the Zubamendi, which we haven't seen yet, by the way, but he's included, as well as the Ødegaard, like this group of a deep midfield pivot that I think we're going to be a lot more intentional with our personalities on the ball and how we access these central areas. But the dismarking run, so the dummy run, the decoy run, whatever synonym you want to make, these fullbacks are so vital to how we create those spacings, okay? And, I think that Saka had done a lot of work previously for some of our other aspects of the right-hand side and just adapting to whoever he was playing with. But one of the big reasons with that Ben partnership is you've got somebody that's able to make these decoy runs to create space for others. And that goal is a perfect example in which I think a lot of people will look at the dummy shot from Ødegaard or even the Tzolis pass and go, oh my God, wow, how'd they execute it? And I'm sitting there, I'm saying, no, Calafiore is the architect of that entire goal. That deep run. Watch what Calafiore is doing, by the way, when he makes that run. Before Tzolis even receives the pass, he's on his bike. Yeah. And it's that preemptive proactivity in which we understand the center is going to be packed, guys. How do you actually move people? You got to do it either through quick passes and switches, which we don't tend to do. You got to do it through quick passing moves, which I think you can see in terms of the first goal. It's a really quick passing move between the pivot that eventually releases a run, which is really good. But the third one is this idea of third man runs, which I think we've almost forgotten in Mikel's journey. That was a really big part of how Ødegaard had his superstar season and how he attacked that penalty spot. I think we're going to see a return of the third man run in different areas. And now we're seeing our fullbacks used in a lot of those ways where, there's times when Tomiyasu even made that run before and he's a receiver, a physical receiver to knock it back off somebody. But it's that third man run that Calafiore does that I think Ben will do at will, Calafiore. And look, it's a point of failure for me. I'll be honest with you guys. Like I look at that left-hand side and I feel as though, okay, at least on the right, I've got a couple people that are willing to make those underlapping runs in addition to just Ben. I think Bruno can make it eventually. I think we've got Saka, we've got Max Dowman. There's a lot of players that I think physically can undertake that type of run. I look at the left and I worry. If Calafiore is out, if we want to see the same proportion of attacks on either side, who is going to theoretically make that run? And I don't want to burden Rice with having to do it because Rice has shown a physical ability to do it, no problem. But I think he does it in a different way. And I think he does it more in a carrying sense in which he's physically carrying the ball box to box in doing so. It's not a dismarking or a decoy run in a sense. So I do look at that left-hand side and it's a point of me looking at it in the squad, but that's why I think fullbacks are so important to the modern game and how we're going to create space.
Question, George, just on this. Would you consider Eze in left centre midfield to part solve that issue if Calafiore wasn't fit?
I would love to see it. I find he's more of a receiver in those areas or the one benefiting a run being made. Like, I think Eze can finish top of the box brilliantly, and I think he can play in midfield. He just interprets the role in a slightly different way for me, is that I don't think he's like that decoy runner. It would need, basically, for me, a much more traditional touchline winger, aka Barcola, to make that type of high touch player work in midfield, which I think we can do. You could solve it with, by the way, a striker like an Osimhen type, like dropping into those wide areas and channel running and all those things. There's many ways to reinvent an Eze in midfield to make it pop and work for me, but Eze works best as being a player that can touch and combine. But I also love him in the finishing role as opposed to making that decoy run type, because I actually don't know if he's got that engine capacity to do the decoy run specifically in that move. I always see him as that receiver to make the final pass or to make the final goal or to make the final action in midfield. I think that's where Eze is best.
What were you thinking, James?
On the Eze or on the other point that I wanted to make. So another point that I wanted to make.
On the Eze and the other point, please.
On the Eze point, I trust George's judgment. I actually was just throwing my hat in the ring with that one. The other point I really wanted to make was on that goal. There's a lot to dissect with it, but in particular, the way Tzolis attacked the box really, really impressed me. And a lot of people,
I saw your tweet.
Yeah. A lot of people have pointed this out, including myself. Something Martinelli does is angles his run. I would say if we're talking about the 18-yard box, he almost angles his run towards the bottom right corner, which is the touchline. When you're doing that, you close off your angles so much. And I think the reason why he does this is because he approaches the 1v1 too fast, because he's so desperate to like beat his man at top speed. He runs out of space so quickly. And the only way you can do that is you have to open the angle up and give yourself more room. What Tzolis did was amazingly was he started wide on the touchline, which gave himself space to approach the man, see the pitch, and then make his decision. And something, George, we spoke about when we scouted him is he takes so many small steps that he's constantly ready to execute that final ball. And to be honest, if you watch it really closely, the ball wasn't necessarily for Ødegaard, but to me, that really doesn't matter. It's the intent. It's the intent of him picking up the ball, approaching the box. And as a defender, it's horrible to play against because you'll have Calafiori potentially overlapping on your outside. You'll have a player making a third man run on your inside. You might have Bruno on the edge of the box, Havertz in the middle, especially with the way we attack the box now. And you'll see more and more we throw men into the box. The way Tzolis makes that run and doesn't rush is going to make a massive, massive difference for us. And I think is going to be a reason why his output is going to just keep ticking along, because it's the decision making and the execution to get into that position, but then have the peace of mind to select the pass and not just go, all right, I'm going to sling it into the box. And clearly the club have identified this with him, because if you go back to his clips at Bruges, that you will see a lot of him making these clever decisions. Nothing is too fancy. It's just simple things done really, really well.
Yeah.
And consistently.
Yeah.
Like it's something that I think Saka gets beat with unnecessary. And it's like, no, it's a skill to be efficient and to make the right decision and to do it well. And those are fundamentals. And I remember, like, we had this conversation with the scout at James. I think like what his superpower was making the right decision consistently. Yeah. And it's small things. And that's what leads to these kind of output conversations. I don't know. The last little tidbit I want to say is, Jesus, what a scout job. But also, I think this is a little bit of McAllis's hand in here, guys. I'm going to say it. This is, somebody that we know was reported to have watched him, but I think it goes beyond just the talent ID. McAllis was somebody that in Napoli mastered the £30 million buy. And the £30 million buy has been a problem area for Arsenal for decades. That was probably the one thing I was really excited about. And when you look at the Hamsik, the Anguissa, the Kvaratskhelia, a lot of those things that McAllis did was finding value in the lower leagues. And it's that question of translation, and why I think Tzolis will translate. And you look at those things are because of those major fundamental points.
George, for the uneducated viewer, can you please explain who Mikel is? Because it sounds like you're just talking about Arteta in a funny way.
Oh yeah. No, sorry. That for those, just as a quick reminder, that is a talent spotter that we did recruit from Napoli, who was a previous side guy down there, and that's Berta's side guy. That is he's responsible for quite a bit of the squad building that went through that really phenomenal period with Napoli, and namely Merrick Hamsik was a really top buy for them, and Gisa was a top buy for them at the time, all on the £30 million rates. Kvaratskhelia was the superstar one that everyone knows about, but again, these are all players that originated in leagues that were outside the top 5 traditional big leagues, and he found value in them in the £20-30 million, and I think his USP is that.
So can we stop this idea after Gyökeres? People have had, I saw loads of comments saying like, no, you can't sign someone from a top 7 or 8 league. It's never going to translate. Listen to yourself. Look, Tzolis is fantastic, and we're lucky to have him.
It's a recommendation from the data team as well, wasn't it? So, and I think with Tzolis, is it Tzolis or Solis?
Depends if you want the Greek version.
Give me the Greek version, George. Give me the Greek version.
No, Tzolis is like the Greek version. You gotta really do
Tzolis. Yeah, Tzolis. You can tell he's going to have longevity in the game as well, because he's not required. He's not depending on pure physical attributes. It is smart decision making. It's pure IQ. And if you go back to the Como game, the penalty that he wins for Gyökeres, who converts it. You look at what he does there. He starts on the left. And Mikel actually, there's a really interesting interview that Tzolis did. I think like all the big outlets, Athletics, Sky, they all did it on Tzolis. And one of the things that he said is that Mikel told him in the final third, just do your thing. Do your thing. Do what you know is best in the situation. So this is the freedom aspect that Mikel does give to his players. The constraint comes with, out of possession, what triggers to apply, when you should jump, when you should stay. That they're the things that he's going to become. He's going to need to adapt to, which I actually think he's doing really well so far. Especially in that City game, I felt that he was really good at dropping low, covering Anderson, and then going on Josko Vardio as well when the ball was on the left. But going back to that Como game, you see, he starts on the left, and we move it to the right hand side. There's a gap there to exploit, and he drifts all the way there to exploit it. He receives, and then he draws the foul. And also against Man City, many times he's drifting towards that right-hand side to give us the overload. And that's just smart play. So I think he's going to have longevity in the game. And I think for me, the criticism that came on Tzolis, especially after that Betis game, I think the Betis game when he was up against Hector Bellerin and the comps were going around and he was getting a lot of stick for it. I feel that's been really unfair to him, but it's came because of the fact that Arsenal haven't signed a stellar forward. So naturally he becomes the whipping boy, in which when something he tries doesn't come off, he then starts to get criticised for it. But really and truly, for the fee that we've paid for him, he needs to be a useful, handy player who can impact proceedings here and there. And to be fair, he's exceeding my expectations so far.
He's only played 133 career 90s. Or not including international minutes, but this is a guy who's played that's 3/4
low miles
seasons
on the
of football.
odometer.
Exactly. The last thing I wanted to say, Rohan, we could all be data analysts because you said he was a data analyst find, and the guy got 40 goals and assists last season. Do you reckon they just sorted by goals and assists? it was like Kane, Tzolis. Yeah, we'll get the next one.
Yeah, and his Champions League numbers are really healthy as well per 90. So yeah, no, he's looking really good, and I'm happy for him. I think he's going to become a fan's favourite really quickly, if he isn't already. I want to talk about 2 players now. First one is my controversial opinion. Big David Raya in goal. Now, again,
I know what ridiculous. It is. I know what your opinion is.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring it now, because I think we need to have a conversation at least. Again, Sunday, fantastic. 2 crosses, 2 corners coming into the mixer, grabs them with ease. The big save against Semenyo, that is a crazy save as well. Low to his right-hand side, strong wrists. Yeah, he's different class. I think David Raya is the best all-rounder in Premier League history. All-rounder. So I'm not talking about someone like Petr Cech, for example, the longevity he had in the game, the trophies he won, the clean sheets and whatnot, everything there, he is a great. And then you look at someone like Peter Schmeichel as well. Petr Cech had wooden legs, right? So I'm talking about all-rounders. He had wooden legs. And I know people say, well, the era in which he was operating didn't necessitate him to be good with the ball at his feet. But I'm talking all-rounders, so I've got to look at the entire package. I think David Raya is the best all-rounder in Prem history. The only three goalkeepers. Alisson, sure. Van der Sar is underrated as well, as an all-rounder, I would say. Ederson, but I think Ederson dropped off quite quickly after the first 2 or 3 years. But on the ball, I think Ederson is the greatest we've ever seen in Prem history, for sure. But as an all-rounder, cross-claiming, shot-stopping, which Alisson, you could argue for him, distribution, composure, golden gloves, Premier League title as well, yeah, Premier League title. Boys, what are we thinking?
You are doing the analytical thing where I think his performances have, and then the casual fan argument's going to be not enough trophies to back it up, even though I'm with you on a lot of that claim. It's tough. I don't actually think we've had a ton of goalkeeping sample in this league where I think Thibaut Courtois would have done it if he stayed.
In terms of all round?
All-rounder? I don't think so.
I think Thibaut Courtois
has got wooden legs.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know about wooden legs. I think he's got a better passing tag than
quintessential wooden legs.
Cech is that. Cech is that for sure. For sure. I do that. But yeah, I don't know if we've got a ton of crazy goalkeepers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you look at like the Premier League history, if you were to do the top 5, top 10, like Raya's cracked it. But, as far as sample goes, I don't know how many you would put in that list as a debate, right? Like, you got Van der Sar, you've got
Pepe Reina's up there as well, but I don't. Not up there. Sorry, no. Let me not up there. No. But I'm saying in terms of like, he's got a chance to crack maybe top 6 as an all rounder potentially. Maybe
it's weird because you know what? Like,
am I waffling right now?
I don't know if you're waffling modern wise. See, the problem is like I don't want to act as though that I know the historical things of everybody. I thought Seaman had fairly decent distribution, especially at the time. It wasn't anything crazy, but when you compare it to now, he can't do what David Raya is going to do with like, the left foot ping on the inside.
Can you next time just say David to sort of start? Sorry, I'm just so childish.
You did that deliberately, George.
Didn't know such thing.
Never heard someone talk about David Seaman's distribution until today.
I did no such thing. But
actually,
no,
I'm gonna retract Pepe Reina. Actually, I've just remembered a lot of games I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna retract Pepe Reina. Yeah, I'm just thinking about those long raking lobs.
Stop interrupting, George.
Sorry.
What? Like, I don't know if this is maybe a criticism. I don't know if we've got a ton of like really top goalkeepers that the Premier League can boast about. Like, I don't know if that sample is huge. I feel like we've got a brilliant amount of defenders. Like, I can cite wingers. Like, I'm going back. Strikers, I think, as well. Like, we've been blessed in that regard. But, certainly for the modern standard, I don't put anybody above David Raya except for, Alisson for me, especially with the sample that we've got at this point. Like, he's been incredible. It's just about trophies. He's led us to a Premier League title. I think he will lead us to back-to-back. That's a conversation for another time, maybe. But, you start doing those things and having those accomplishments, right? It's just Alisson Becker, I think, is the only modern competition towards it. But other than that, I don't know of a historical figure, bar, your Van der Sars and, David and some others that people would put up. But I don't know if the list is long, and maybe I'm being ignorant to my history.
Prime Alisson on, do you know John Harrison's model?
I do know
John Harrison's game. Prime Alisson prevented 19 goals in the Premier League that season. I believe it was the season Liverpool in the league, which is
19.
Prevented 19 goals in terms of cross-claiming, in terms of distribution, in terms of shot stopping. I think the shot stopping alone was like plus 12 goals. That in terms of like deviations from the norm, that's like a Messi 91 goals season. It's absolutely absurd. So for me, it's still Alisson. And Raya can only... I'm not sure if Raya will ever hit the peak that Alisson hit that season. It's completely absurd for me. Raya can increase his sample size because I think Alisson in the tail end of his years certainly tailed off a lot. But oh my goodness, how safe I feel when he's in goal, particularly compared to Kepa, our backup. That Semenyo save, I was in disbelief. And it's only the fact that he does it so often that these aren't getting spoken about more. That would be plenty of goalkeepers like career highlights. Because to get down as quickly as he did and to have such a strong hand, it's beyond belief. And maybe we should re-sign Ramsdale.
I'd be all for that as our backup. Honestly, I would be.
Can you imagine? That would be a crazy twist.
Bring him back. You know, this is the thing. You know, I think I'm. You know, when we talk about like our most important players, we talk about Rice, Saliba. It's David Raya, isn't it? Really, because if David Raya goes down injured, we're pretty screwed, aren't we?
Look, we're gonna have a look. I think just to throw a name out there because everyone wants. We're in the season. I don't think we can afford him this season, but next year we should shop in Lens in France. Look at Robin Risser, very interesting prospect, 6'4", interesting player is all I will say.
I've always felt that we should have looked at someone like Jason Steele as our backup. You know,
that's a very
Jason
you
Steele.
answer, isn't it? Yeah. I know you like him.
Yeah. Jason Steele, he can play.
How old is he now?
Probably like 32, 33, presumably. But
what about that?
He can play.
What about that Palace keeper, Rohan, that we watched at the Emirates?
Oh, I'm gonna hurt myself if I don't get it. What's his name? Was it Fotherington? Was it Fotherington?
No. That was Sheffield United's keeper when we beat him 5-0.
Please just
Whitworth. It was Whitworth.
That guy is absolute trash. But yeah. Final player that I want to talk about. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, hopefully you're not watching Whitworth.
Yeah, hopefully not watching Whitworth. I apologise.
And if you are, thanks for being a member. And
thanks for
like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, tell a friend. Final player I want to talk about before we get into some questions is the big man up top.
King.
Kai Havertz does it again. And you're talking to Kai Havertz's lawyer here. Always there. Always going to back him. I'm not going to say anything because I'm host today. I'm going to let you two discuss Kai Havertz.
I said it in the IR, so it's all George.
George.
Oh, man.
Eulogise on my boy.
You know what's interesting with Kai Havertz? He is somebody that I think will forever be misspoken about, to be honest with you, because to be fair, he is so close to, while having elite production, I don't think he's an elite footballer. And is potentially, for me, one of the most interesting examples of coaching that I've seen in quite a while, to be honest with you, because I struggle for somebody that has these moments to be so loose in possession, to then execute consistently across a 90, and what he does for a team is huge. It's unquantifiable for Arsenal as far as the fluidity that he adds to our attacking third, and just the well-roundedness to which he is truly able to impact the game. Like, I think he's just comfortable in so many zones that he falls into that 9.5 type of conversations. And I think it's been a detriment to his career, to be honest with you, because he is so good in so many different areas. And I think that Mikel has evolved him to be even better as far as his competency in duels, the way that he approaches duels right now, the way that he's able to become a little bit more of a backboard. I always felt that Kai Havertz suffered that physical edge in which he maybe needed someone to do that work for him, but he's been really accomplished in that area. And we just see what he's like as an outlet guy. It's like he is both a physical outlet as a backboard for Arsenal, but in addition, that guy can also run and run off somebody doing that work equally well that I don't think we use as much anymore. But it's why that they want to use him potentially in midfield, even though I don't think he had his best performances there. But it's why he's so rounded and he's so impactful in so many different areas of the pitch. This guy just needs to be fit. And, had he been fit, he was going to produce numbers and probably wrap up the title very early for us, guys, to be honest with you. It is one of those things. But I struggle because I'll be honest with you guys, he just has those high-profile misses. And it's not even like it's a Cavani who just creates so much and you can excuse it. They are really laughable and comedic at times. And some of the decisions that he can make when in the final third, but his impact on the broad game model is just so big that he's a conundrum. He's difficult to really pick. Like, I don't know about you guys. I always say he has elite performance whilst not being an elite footballer. Is kind of where I stand on it. And his numbers are elite. You can't argue with the production. But it's just so difficult. Like, if I start stacking him up to some of the greats, there's no way I'm putting him in conversations on football skill with a Van Persie, with some of the best footballers to have graced the game. But his production is elite, and his impact on our game model is vast. You could argue, again, a point of failure. You could argue that. Like, there's several points of failure within this squad, but you could argue Kai Havertz represents a point of failure. We're just very lucky to have Marino to back it up.
I have a question because, Rohan, you've done a lot of hosting, so I want you to answer this question now. In terms of players, as a number 9 striker, centre forward, who elevate those around them, what number 9s would you put ahead of him in world football?
Harry Kane. In terms of those around him,
because in terms of the
ignoring
though, direct contribution to goals, in terms of the impact he has in pressing, in terms of bringing other players into the team, there aren't that many elite strikers in world football, but I would put him right up there in what he does.
Yeah. I mean, people will look at the likes of Isak. They'll look at even somebody like Haaland in terms of his individuality and the impact that has on the collective. But I think as an all-rounder, Kai Havertz is class. And this is what I've always been saying about him. If he stays fit, if he plays up top, Arsenal play fantastic football. They just do. Because of his associative play, the way he drops in, the way he creates dilemmas, the runs that he makes. Statistically, before we signed Kai Havertz in the 22-23 season, and we talk about him, he's a ball to feet player, and that kind of insinuates that he can't run. But Kai Havertz in 22-23 made the second most off the ball runs to break the defensive line in that season behind Haaland. What are we doing here? It infuriates me of the stick that this guy gets. I agree that he's constantly at the scene of the crime, when it comes to big chances. But I'd rather him be there than not be there. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather him be there to be given a chance to convert the opportunity. And this is what frustrated me with the discourse in the game at the Etihad last season, right? Because we all look at that mistake and it's that chance that he squanders at the end. And it's a big chance for sure. But we don't even compete in that game without Kai Havertz. Go and watch that game back. We do not compete. We do not lay a glove on City, given the condition of the squad and what he was able to do in terms of that quick output. I think you spoke about it before with Alex James on the hour in terms of Arsenal's propensity to go long, and we've all spoken about that a lot. And we felt, for me, a large portion of that is also the psychology with it and the fact that, if you go long, you then avoid the press and you don't concede a chance via a turnover. Kai Havertz becomes massively important for you there, that quick Raya to Havertz ball over the top. He's quality, and he has scored the Premier League goal that ultimately mathematically secured us the league title. He scored the Champions League final goal that gave us hope. What more do you want from him? I don't understand. Apart from availability, he's going to miss big chances. Get ready for that. But I'll still be here because I know what he is.
What a lawyer.
Oh, James.
What a lawyer. I would hire you as my lawyer if I needed to defend
Better Call Rohan, new series on Hulu.
It just infuriates me. I see all the thumbnails of Arsenal losing a game and Kai Havertz is always there. Get out of here.
Speaking of Better Call Rohan, has anyone seen the fly that has been bothering me for the last 54 minutes? It's a fly that keeps flying around the screen. I was going to say this at the end, but I'm at the end of my tether. And there's a Breaking Bad episode about this for anyone who's watched Breaking Bad. This episode, and I promise I'll keep this sweet, is The Emperor's New Clothes. people talk about it being a masterpiece. It's just not a great episode. It was a filler episode because they hadn't recorded enough. And the same fly has found its way into my office and is bothering me. So next question, Rohan.
But you are fighting like a trooper. You're just like the Ben Whites of the world. Warrior, leader, fighter. George's boy. All our boys. We'll go to questions. Thank you all for being a TDK Plus member. You guys have been fantastic. And even if you're not a member, you are fantastic as well. But you can become even more fantastic by accessing the 7-day free trial to become a Patreon or YouTube member. It is that time of the year as well. New season, lots of content coming through. Rewatches, Scouteds are still coming through the door. James is always there. He's always there. Him and George. It's cooperative superiority, that connection. You'll be able to get all of that by becoming a Patreon or YouTube member. Get on with it. Do it. It's the right time. New season, we're here to defend our crown. And also, you get priority access to questions that we will be doing now via the Discord. And it's always popping up on the Discord. So, starting with Schrodinger's Penguin. What a fantastic name that is. It's got the little the O with the 2 dots. What's that called, actually?
Umlaut.
Very good. Very good. I feel like James knew as well, so I'm quite uneducated on that topic, unfortunately. Who will be our MVP in terms of goals and assists this season? All comps. So let's assume we get a clean bill of health. Which
Who was it last season, by the way?
But it was not Bukayo Saka.
Would have been Big Vic, wasn't it?
Was it not Tross?
Technically, yeah.
I love it.
I think he edged it because remember Trossard, I don't think he had a goal really.
I think it would have been Big Vic, and Martinelli is close there as well, you know.
I think it was Gyökeres just in the end, especially in the last 5-6 games. He had quite a bit of output. So I think it was him technically. But no, Bukayo Saka, I have some stuff to say. I'm going to say this right now. Mate, some of the ridiculous shit.
See that burst, George?
Bukayo Saka. Oh, you know I saw that burst. You know I saw it, and you know I was going to bring it up. This whole thing that, you know, he's physically changed. Bring on the braids. That's all I'm going to say. Bring on the braids. I think Bukayo is going to remind people about his quality. Let's just put it at that. To question Bukayo is to question your intelligence in football. I'll go that strong.
Damn.
Okay.
Yeah, have that one, haters.
The correct answer was Gyökeres with 24. Can anyone tell me he had the most goals and assists per 90?
Martinelli or Trossard?
No.
One of those two.
Martinelli was second, Trossard was 5th.
Really?
Saka?
Saka was 6th.
Per 90?
Marino?
Of course. No, it's not.
No, he's 9th.
Kai?
By the way, this player, Kai Havertz, had 1.01 goals and assists per 90 minutes last season. Now, that was a sample of only 1,068 minutes. But the guy, when he is fit and playing football, the guy gets goals and assists. Yeah,
Let me write that down in my notes. Yep.
So I think it will probably be Saka, especially because he'll be taking penalties if Gyökeres isn't on the pitch. But Kai Havertz, we've seen time and time again, every sample we have of him playing in centre forward, he gets goals and assists. And you can look from the 2024 calendar year when he was pushing some serious names at the start of the season. Mm-hmm. And you can look, as I've just described, at the end of last season. So King Kai Havertz is going to add another Premier League to his CV.
And we'll be here. And we are objective as well. We do criticise Kai Havertz as well. But the criticism from others goes way over the top. Kai Havertz. Fantastic. But if there was one player I would like it to be, it would be Saka. You know, I think Saka, in terms of what's happened over the past 2 years with the injuries, and you can still see his productivity. I mean, was really, really frustrating in the 24-25 season when he picked up that big injury against Crystal Palace in December. His numbers, you could go through every single game. You could look at Saka producing at least 1 or 2 moments in each of those games, and also the assist numbers as well. They were off the charts yeah, he's looking in great nick. Coming on the back of a hat trick in a World Cup as well. So yeah, fantastic. Let's
the World
move
Cup
on.
final even. Basically.
World Cup.
Basically a final, isn't it? It was the final game in the World Cup, pretty much.
Right. Right. Moving on to question from Zokali. If we don't sign another player, do you think we can still win the Premier League and the Champions League? If not, what would be the minimum business you believe we should do from now till the end of the window? Now, I know...
Mate.
Yeah, go on. Go for it, George.
No, I'm just going to say it because you know what? I do think that the frustrations of how we've operated has meant that a lot of people have questioned the quality of our squad. And that, just to link it back to this, Community Shield aspect, it was slapping. We slapped City. We toyed with them. And I think I think what makes it so frustrating, and probably just to justify some of that anger, is because I think at our baseline, we're capable of going back to back. I maintain that. Like, we have the quality to go back to back right now. The thing is, I think people just see how easy it is if we overextend it to now start saying crazy claims about the double. You know me, I'd already say that this team has the ability to. It's just you want it out of the question. And I think just one elite attacking signing combined with the work that we've done in midfield, I think we do something special in terms of doing the double, not a double of like a domestic cup, but like the double. At baseline, I put us to go back to back in the Premier League. And you know what? I really want like a Community Shield just to complete the Infinity Stone kind of trifecta. There's been some, I don't know. I've got like this thing with the Community Shield where I think
trophy.
that, yeah, well, it's more like you complete that, you go back to back as a league champion, and then you know what? I kind of want also like a League Cup retribution. I'm not over our performances there and just fundamentally being able to right some historical wrongs. I'm a big fan of doing that, so I'd like us to win that this season. So
George would like us to win the treble this season. Me too. Funnily enough.
There you go.
Do you know how many League Cups we have in our history?
I do not.
0. We have 2 League Cups. We've got 14 Premier League titles. We've got 14 FA Cups, a Cup Winners' Cup, 2 Affairs Cup, and then 2 League Cups. And then we've got about 1 billion Community Shields, which we do add to the list.
But mate, like I think, look, you recruit one elite forward. I do think one elite forward takes this team into winning the double confidently. Like I think we have the ability to. I just think that in order to win the Champions League, we rely on certain factors and fitness at this point. Like if we have a fully fit squad, I'd back us against anyone in the world. But to be confident, regardless of injuries, I think we need another elite forward in the team because I maintain you don't make eras without 2 world-class certified needle movers in attack. Yeah. That's always been something that I feel that's necessary. So recruit one of those. I start saying that we'll do the double in the Prem. But if we don't, I'm saying League Cup and back to back.
Something we need to touch upon quickly. We cannot leave today's episode without mentioning. George, you said about people underestimating our squad. The midfield that started against Man City was Bruno G, Miles Lewis-Skelly, and Martin Ødegaard. All 3 were subbed off. The midfield that finished that game was Martin Zubimendi, Declan Rice, and Eze. It's completely and utterly insane. So, yeah, we will be fine. Clearly, we need a few details. It's not. I've seen people say, "Do we really need a right centre back?" We do. We are short in defence, and it's not a direct. I think a lot of people took that as a direct criticism of Mosquera. So when they saw Mosquera do really well, they were like, "Oh, look, we're fine." It's not the point. The point is Mosquera and Gabriel have more overlapping profiles. I think that game did probably show us that if paired with the right midfield dynamic, you can alleviate a lot of that pressure for those 2 to progress centrally.
Or bring that out of people too.
Yeah. But we still need an extra body in defence, and got a lot of love for Marley, but it's not someone that you want to be relying on in a 60-game season when you might be in the Champions League final. So, I just wanted to mention. Go on.
In terms of for you, like, would you say we can win the Champions League right now? Going back to that question.
Me, absolutely. Yeah. I think our squad has only got stronger from last season. To me, the Champions League is something that is very, very hard to guarantee. It is, at the end of the day, sometimes it's not a lottery, that's the wrong word, but you're playing against margins. So you can control those margins as well as possible. But we saw that Guardiola had to have so many cracks at it because ultimately a team, it's such an emotional competition that a team can have a counterattack, score. If we're being honest, PSG had a better team than us in the Champions League final. We were about 20 minutes away from winning that game as underdogs, based on playing against the margins, based on taking the chance that we had and then defending excellently. That same thing could happen against us next season. All we can do is keep improving the squad. And this is what George is saying. If we had a guy like the Brazilian left winger from Real Madrid or Barcola, then you just increase those margins. You just increase the likelihood that you're not going to be in a position where you're relying on some bad luck not to happen.
Yeah, it's just increasing the probability of potentially doing it. I think for me, though, with the Champions League, I think a lot of people have been looking at that, especially with, our linear progression in the Champions League of, got quarterfinal, semi-final, final. And then you think, okay,
and then you win.
We're just going to win. Champions League, there's so many variables that need to go in your favor. Every single team that wins the Champions League need variables to go their way. Like, for example, Man City against Inter Milan, that Lukaku miss right at the end, that is a sitter. Like, on a different day, that goes in, and then what? It goes to extra time. Do Man City win that game? You don't know. So, and if we go back to last season, I appreciate the fact that we went 8 out of 8 in the group stage, and we deserve to go on that other side of the draw. But Bayern Munich finished second. They also had a fantastic group stage, and they're on the other side of the draw. And that other side of the draw is absolute hell. I don't think we get to the final if we're on that other side of the draw, given the squad condition and what we had to fight for in the Premier League. So that's not that's not criticising the club in that respect. It's just understanding the fact that the Champions League, there's so many things that do need to go in your way. You can't build a squad with the focus of winning the Champions League. You build the squad to be consistent in the league year in, year out, and that naturally will allow you to go far in the Champions League as well.
You did say something really poignant, I would say, though, Rohan, which is that the squad needs to be in the right state when it gets to the crunch time of the Champions League. And the bigger and the more depth that you build in your squad, but also there is inevitably going to be some responsibility on Arteta to use that. He needs to absolutely this season. He has the players. We've just spoken about the 6 players in midfield who would get into almost any team in the league. I absolutely don't want to see Declan Rice starting 38 games in a Premier League season. There's no need. I would rather him be fresh into the run-in, as we've seen Guardiola do with De Bruyne as well.
And I'm just going to maybe just to share, it's interesting, but how we used our left back in the Community Shield and the intentionality of having a Calafiori and then somebody defensively strong to close out a game. I want more of that. I just want more of that across the squad. Those intentional sub decisions to control games and be a bit bigger with the type of squad that we have. Because quite frankly, guys, we've got an insane squad. And it's worth saying again for people that are doughy-eyed with how we've operated this window, because it is absolutely insane. And I think that Bruno G has represented a kind of an impact where we finally got a midfield partnership that I'd say is at the Gabriel Saliba level. You'd argue it's a pivot that's the best pivot in world football. Yeah. And I've kind of made that point before, but to say that's a huge dynamic change in the midfield. It is. It just massively is. And to combine that with already having the best defense in world football, to now have the best midfield depth, I think, in world football, as well as starting pivot quality, it just needs its attacking partner, guys, so bad. I just think that for me, it's exactly what you guys are talking about. As far as margins go, there's 2 levels of confidence. There's the confidence that you have the ability to do something. And then there's a level of confidence to say, I don't care what happens to us, we're still going to do it. That chest, I'm not ready with this squad until we recruit an elite attacker. Once we do, trust me, you're going to be annoyed with the way I'm speaking.
Bring it. That's what we need. That's what we absolutely need. But yeah, it's actually crazy with the Champions League final and the Carabao Cup final. Calafiori didn't start in any of those 2 games.
Mate,
no.
It's ridiculous.
It's quite
ridiculous.
sad when you think about it, especially the Champions League final one, because I was fully expecting him to be available for that game. And then he picked up a knock apparently midweek. And you just imagine like that left-hand side. Imagine your start of Calafiori and what he's able to provoke and what he's able to do. Then you finish with someone like a Hincapié who's just an absolute dog. Like that is difficult for the opposition.
And by the way, Hincapié made I think it was you, George, spoke about Hincapié's crossing, his potentiality in crossing. That was an absolutely divine cross, and Saka should have scored. It's the one thing Saka's missing in his game is still that finishing.
Do you know what's frustrating as well? That build-up was insane as well, from back to front, through the right to the left, and it finishes with the cross, mate. Saka, come on. He's our boy, but you gotta be scoring those. But yeah, on your point about Declan Rice as well. I mean, last season, I think we still leave ourselves in a situation in which a Riceless midfield does look quite daunting. I think yesterday as well, I felt we did fantastically out of possession, but you can still see certain things that unfortunately we're just going to have to accept in the absence of a Rice. So then it's a case of, how do you manage a Declan Rice? I think the way that you do that is by looking at the fixtures and understanding which game absolutely necessitates a Declan Rice. So, for example, last season in the Premier League, he started 35 out of the 38 Premier League games. The ones that he missed were against Forest at home, Crystal Palace on the last day, but again, the season was wrapped up, and Aston Villa, which he missed due to an injury. So we're playing against the likes of Wolves last season, home and away. Playing against the likes of West Ham home and away, Burnley home and away. I appreciate like Burnley at home was, a decisive moment in the season, which you do need to start a Rice. But you can kind of see my point though. He doesn't need to be starting in all of these games. And that's what it's about, understanding which game necessitates a Declan Rice and what game doesn't. So, yeah.
I think just looking at the table, guys, you're talking about your Hulls, your Ipswich Town, your Leeds, like Coventry. These are just
rubbish. Yeah,
they're all like home and away. You don't have a need for. I mean, and then you can make decisions basically on Everton, Fulham, depending on the team sheet. I think Brentford, Brighton, and Forest are always teams, and even Palace that I always put in as saying potentially. But depending on how the game goes, right? Those are kind of tough physical midfields that I would struggle on. And when you look at the top six sides, I just hope we start being a little bit rude and dominant, where some of these top six sides, or rather some of these traditional top six sides, are not top six sides, and start playing to that level. Like, just want to beat Man United. I hate every time we face Man United in the last 2 years, we have not exerted our dominance. I want an Old Trafford beating. They are owed
that I agree with
beating.
Our results outside of obviously the home game last season, but our results have been good against United. We're not giving them a pounding. A pounding. So yeah, we'll give them that this season. They ain't getting one game a week anymore. It's you're playing every 3 days. Yeah. Your legs are going to feel like jelly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just laughing at my own thing. Sorry. Final question. Actually, we'll do 2 questions, really quick ones. Bulishan asks, do you guys think half-space runners from deep will be a recurring theme this year due to the difficulty of marking them? Like basically what we talked about in terms of fullbacks, which we did discuss.
Yeah, fantastic question.
Already. Yeah. And I actually, for me, on that, to just kind of close out that topic, you imagine where the game is going. You see it again against Man City. Very man-to-man, 1v1s, 2v1s in certain areas, depending on how the opposition sets up. But the fullbacks are naturally going to be marked by the opposition wingers, right? So when you get into the final third, the wingers aren't always going to track you. They're just not going to. So the fullbacks they're able to get the separation there because of losing their marker. So it's a lot easier to lose a winger, an opposition winger who is more attack-minded than someone like a fullback who's going to be pinned by the winger. So yeah, but his other question is, how many goals and assists do you think Calafiori gets next season?
Oh, depends on it. It so depends on his fitness.
You're an FPLG, so you should have a good answer here.
I'm gonna say 12. 12 goals and assists in the league is quite high.
What did he get last season?
That's very high. That's
You'd be
like top 5.
That's
in
doable,
the league.
though.
You'd be shocked how many he got last season.
In the league, how many you do?
He got 4 in the league last season, but yeah, he really, really slowed down after the start. He was on 4 after like 10 games.
Yeah.
12.
Damn.
I'm going to stick with 12.
Because isn't like top scorers traditionally 15? Like for Golden Boot stuff, 15 to 18 normally clinches it.
In terms of what, like?
No, George, I'm talking goals and assists. I'm not talking just goals.
Oh, goals and assists.
Goodness me, I'm not talking 12 goals.
Imagine Calafiori's getting 15 goals.
Little striker action. Wow. Well, you know what? I don't think you're too far off, to be honest with you, James. I put it around 10, to be honest with you.
Just to interrupt, he got 2 goals and assists in 5 games in pre-season. And those 5 games, he played 270 minutes. So he's currently on 2 goals in 390s. 2 goals and assists in 390s.
He should be doing more, though, for the player that he is.
Well, and the positions he's allowed to drift into.
Yeah.
If we're being, like, I think as a talent, it's unquestionable. But I do think because we give him that type of freedom, if he's going to arrive in those areas, like one thing I'll say is if we're going to platform him to arrive in those areas as often as we do, he has to be impactful in those areas. As much as we expect an attacker to, even if he is a fullback. That's one thing I will put. And his talent deserves it, by the way. I don't think it's unfair. Like, he can. Did you see that that shooting drill? Mate, some of the mechanics. Oh, his finishing is
the way he put fade on the ball and blasted it. Unbelievable.
Man, I wish I could kick a ball like that.
Oh, mate, 100%. 100%.
Absolutely levering that into the sky. Yeah, he's gonna cook next season. Final question from Daft Punk. Number 1, Berta Dauter, also in his name. I'll be watching you, Berta, this season. I'm watching you. Will this be the last year for Noni Madueke unless he can reinvent himself? My personal prediction is that Max takes his place by the end of the season. We'll close on more of a downer question because, yeah, why not?
Good little wordplay. Well done.
Not intentional.
I think that Edwin Quintero is a absolutely major signing and a talent that is on the level of a Max Dowman in terms of what he could produce. I think if you get a chance to watch kind of who we have coming in, Edwin's going to put serious pressure on Nani. And I never agreed with the fee. I'm not going to rewrite things. I think we're not getting enough for the fee. I think he's done the job about giving Saka minutes. I think that's a very low bar for a Premier League footballer that has had the amount of sample he's had in the league. We can demand more. And if you're going to be a £50 million signing, we can demand more. There's a lot of people that we could have recruited to have given Saka a break. Tzolis. You could have Tzolis somebody that's a left foot. There was plenty of them over the years. So I think we're doing a disservice to the player that, we can't expect more. He's got to start, providing more. When that will be, genuinely, I think next season is a fair question to ask. In fact, if I got, an offer for him, I'm not saying to keep him. I'm not pushing him out the door, but he is, for me, approaching that fringe and that weed of we have an in-house solution that we can make money and reinvest in other areas. So he's in that list.
George is loving the weed, the weed phrase.
His output is just not good enough. And it's frustrating because I see glimpses constantly of oh yeah, I can see it, but we're squinting. And so often he finds himself in a dangerous position. And I look at it and I think, if we've platformed you so amazingly well and you're just not doing enough with it. But yeah, the guy has talent. We saw that goal against Bruges last season. It's just never executed cleanly enough and consistently enough. There was a moment against Man City where he cut in on his left and just p-rolled it at the goalkeeper. And it's really frustrating. And yeah, as we say, our defence is, once we sign a right centre-back, our defence is basically done. In goal, we could sign a backup, but that's not going to affect things. Our midfield is basically done. So we're looking at the squad now thinking, okay, there are very few areas that we need to improve. So absolutely, Noni is going to be a guy who, if he doesn't end the season with probably 10 to 15 goals and assists, maybe pushing it and saying, like, put your cards on the table. What have you contributed towards us across various competitions? Then it will be the case, because it's the same with Martinelli. Noni's basically in a position Martinelli's in, just with a little bit more patience, because he's only recently joined. And I don't know, I think there's obviously it's less of a pressing issue, because we're not looking at a starter in that position. We're looking for a backup anyway, so the bar is lower. But with Martinelli, Arteta looked at it, and it very much seems like he's gone, well, he didn't contribute enough in the Premier League, and we couldn't trust him in the Premier League, so we'll find someone who we can.
Yeah. No, I think it's a big season for him. I think the word patience is big right now. I think naturally people will be willing to give him a second season. It's the same with someone like Victor Gyökeres as well. You're willing to give somebody their second season because you kind of, look at the first year as being one in which you're adapting to a different methodology, different way of playing and whatnot. And that will be how people would look at someone like Noni as well, who are in the camp for Noni. I'm with you, both in terms of I'm expecting more. He needs to do more, especially with what's happening with Ethan Nwaneri. I know Ethan Nwaneri is not a like-for-like right winger, but you can look at his productivity in terms of what he offered there in the small sample he had, and you look at someone like Noni. It's I can understand why people are frustrated. So yeah, big season for him. Hopefully he goes hard. And are we talking about Noni Madueke with Harry Brook, who has coached Noni Madueke, be doing a recording for you Patreon and YouTube members, and I'll be quizzing him on everything about Madueke so I can actually understand the player even more outside of just watching him, as we all do on the pitch for the Arsenal. But yeah,
so not only is it a big season for Noni Madueke, it's a big season for the different knock. Tell us what they can expect from this season, Rohan.
Lots of content, lots of wins, lots of happy IRs. Yeah, fantastic stuff. We're not going to be upset. You just wait for that.
And one more thing, Rohan, your masterclasses. I've seen now you've done an injury masterclass. You're doing a coaching masterclass with Harry Brooks. Talk to us about these. Do some self-promo with that.
Yeah, it's all different sorts of content. I'm going to try and get a writer on as well. See if he's willing to come on as well. But yeah, we've done a coaching masterclass. We're going to be doing a coaching masterclass with Harry Brook. Done one with John McKenzie in terms of the tactics and where the game is going. The injury one with physio expert on X. It was fantastic. Yeah. Lots of stuff coming through. Harvey Gratian as well. We did a cheeky masterclass on that with him. But yeah, great time to become a member. So I'm intrigued by the Harry Brook one. But we shall leave it there. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed this. We're all ready now. Eagerly anticipated for Frank Lampard, Lamps, back at the Emirates. I'm going to slap him up. Thank you, George.
Thank you, good sir.
Thank you, James. You've been fantastic again, as per. And you two, mate, this is the dynamic. The dynamic
a little symbiotic relationship. There will be an episode where I don't get the call, and I will relax.
Everybody's
and enjoy
going to be upset. They're going to be sad, and they're going to be wanting James.
Apart from me, I'm going to get my rest and put an ice pack on. And this camera is going all over the place. So thank you for having me, as always, Rohan.
Thank you for coming on. And last but not least, thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Ferocious.